In the digital world I manage for a living, trust is paramount. Authentication, verification, secure channels, it's the bedrock of everything. I never imagined the biggest security breach I'd ever face wouldn't involve servers or firewalls, but my own wife, my own home network, and a string of innocuous-looking emails promising easy money I never asked for. My name is Mike Sullivan. I'm 53, living in Austin, Texas, and for the past 15 years, I've been an IT project manager. My job is to wrangle chaos into order. I manage complex software deployments, network upgrades, cloud migrations, timelines, budgets, risk mitigation. That's my world. Logic, process, meticulous planning. I live by the details, the spreadsheets, the Gantt charts. Off the clock, I applied the same principles. My finances were immaculate. My lawn was edged. My retirement accounts methodically funded. My credit score north of 800 wasn't just a number. It was a testament to decades of responsible living. A quiet point of pride in a world that often felt unpredictable. I thought my life was a well-architected system, stable and secure, firewalls firmly in place. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, the first exploit, disguised as junk mail, slipped past my defenses and hit my personal inbox. It started subtly, almost comically, an email brightly announcing, "Congratulations, Michael Sullivan. You're pre-approved for $15 with Fast Loan now." Looked like typical sophisticated spam, maybe a phishing attempt hoping for a careless click. I'm pathologically careful online. It's ingrained from my job. Hover over links, scrutinize sender addresses, never ever click on unsolicited offers promising free money. Standard procedure. I deleted it with barely a thought, maybe a flicker of annoyance at the persistence of digital clutter. A day later, another one materialized. Your application with Quick Cash Direct is under review. My application? Delete. Then another bolder. Lending Tree Partner Offer. $20,000 ready for you, Mike. Delete, block sender. Just background noise, I told myself, the digital equivalent of flies buzzing around a picnic. Annoying, persistent, but ultimately harmless if you ignored them. I mentioned it casually to my wife, Jessica, over dinner that night. We'd been married 20 years, a comfortable partnership, or so I believed. Built a life in Cedar Park, a nice suburb just outside Austin. Good schools when the kids were younger, decent neighbors, a manageable mortgage on a house we'd made our own. The kids were grown now, one in college, one working out of state. Life had settled into a predictable rhythm. Jessica worked part-time at a small clothing boutique, enjoyed her book club and yoga classes. She handled most of the day-to-day household bills from the joint account, a convenience I'd appreciated, freeing me up to focus on my demanding, often stressful job. It seemed like a fair division of labor, logical, efficient. I trusted her implicitly with the small stuff, the logins, the minor financial choreography of our shared lives. Why wouldn't I? 20 years builds a certain kind of complacency. Getting a ton of spam loan offers lately, I grumbled, scrolling through my phone with mild irritation before dinner. Really aggressive ones. Wonder if there was another data breach somewhere. Jessica barely looked up from arranging flowers she'd bought. "Oh, weird. Just ignore them, honey. Probably just bot scraping names or something. Don't click anything." Her response was perfectly pitched. Mild surprise, sensible advice, instant dismissal. Completely normal. Utterly unremarkable at the time. Now looking back, the absolute stillness of her reaction screams volumes. But the emails didn't stop. They became more specific. "Michael Sullivan, action required on your Best Egg loan application. Final confirmation needed for your Avant funding." The names started sounding less like random spam generators and more like actual online lenders. Unease began to prickle at the back of my neck. This felt Targeted. Then came the email that wasn't junk. It was an official alert from Credit Karma, an app I glance at occasionally just to see that reassuringly high number. Subject: Alert, new hard inquiry. Detected on your TransUnion credit report. My blood ran cold. Not pre-approval spam. A hard inquiry. That only happens when someone actively applies for credit using your specific, sensitive information. I never apply for credit haphazardly. The last time was years ago, refinancing the house. My fingers felt numb as I fumbled with my phone, logging into the Credit Karma app right there at my desk, the office chatter fading into a distant buzz. The alert was real. A hard inquiry listed from Prosper Marketplace Inc., dated 2 days prior. My breath hitched. Scrolling down further, heart hammering against my ribs, my stomach plummeted into icy dread. Under the Accounts section, listed with chilling normalcy right below my long-standing mortgage and car loan, were 2 brand-new entries I had never seen before. A personal loan from Upstart Network, opened last week. Current balance $25,000. Another from Avant, opened just 3 days ago. Current balance $18,000. $43,000. In fresh, terrifying debt. Attached to my name, my social security number. Open within the last 10 days. It felt like the world had tilted off its axis. This wasn't spam. This wasn't a system glitch. This was full-blown, high-stakes identity theft. My mind scrambled, desperately seeking a rational explanation. Had I clicked a sophisticated phishing link despite my caution? Was my laptop compromised? Had someone rifled through our mailbox, stolen pre-approved offers? But how did they get my social security number? My date of birth? My mother's maiden name? Enough deeply personal information to bypass online verification protocols for multiple lenders? It seemed impossible for a random thief. My hands shaking slightly, I logged into Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion directly, paying for immediate access to the full detailed reports. It was worse. Much worse. More hard inquiries littered the reports like shrapnel holes. Another approved loan surfaced, this one for $12,000 from Best Egg. And several rejected applications, thankfully, though each failed attempt still left its damaging mark. Total approved, utterly fraudulent debt now stood at $55,000 each. My pristine credit score, the carefully cultivated symbol of my life's orderliness, had cratered. Notifications showed it hovering in the low 600s, junk territory. Years of fiscal discipline, meticulous payments, responsible borrowing, annihilated in less than 2 weeks. Panic clawed at my throat, mingling with a cold, creeping dread that settled deep in my gut. Who could possibly have all this information? My physical SSN card was locked in a safe deposit box. My birth certificate, old tax returns, sensitive documents were filed away securely in my home office filing cabinet, locked, of course. Only one person had unfettered access to the house, knew where the keys were, knew my passwords, or could easily guess them from shared history, knew my mother's maiden name, the name of my childhood pet, the street I grew up on, all those intimate details used for security questions. Jessica. The thought was a betrayal so profound, so monstrous, I physically recoiled from it. Number? It couldn't be. 20 years of marriage, shared dreams, raising kids. It was unthinkable. There had to be another explanation. A highly sophisticated hacker targeting me specifically? A massive, unreported data breach at my company or one of our vendors? Anything but the person sleeping beside me at night. I decided I had to confront her, but carefully. Not with accusations that felt insane even to think, but with the cold, hard facts printed from the credit reports. I needed to see her reaction, gauge her response. hoping against hope she'd be as horrified and bewildered as I was, that we could tackle this nightmare together. I printed the damning pages, the stark black and white lines detailing the financial ruin accumulating under my name. I waited for her to get home from the boutique, the printed sheets feeling heavy as lead in my hands, my stomach churning with a sickening mixture of fear and suspicion. She walked in around 6, humming softly, dropping her keys in the ceramic bowl by the door with the familiar clink. "Hey, honey, long day?" Traffic was awful. The sheer normalcy of it felt like a scene from a horror movie before the jump scare. I couldn't manage small talk. I just held out the printed pages, my hand trembling slightly. "Jessica, look at this. Please. Someone has taken out over $50,000 in loans, using my name, my social, all my information. It all happened in the last 2 weeks." Her reaction was instantaneous, and I realized with a sickening lurch, flawless. Her eyes widened in perfect shock. Her hand flew to her mouth, a gasp escaping her lips. "Oh my God, Mike!" "What? How? Are you serious? That's horrible. Someone stole your identity. We have to call the police right now. Freeze everything. Change all the passwords." She looked genuinely horrified, righteous anger flashing in her eyes on my behalf. She was ready to jump into action, shoulder to shoulder with me against this invisible enemy. For a fleeting, desperate moment, relief washed over me so powerfully I almost felt faint. Thank God. It wasn't her. My suspicion felt ugly, shameful. We'd face this together, fix it together. But something still felt wrong. A little too polished? The shock registered, but did it run deep enough? And as I started explaining the details, the specific online lenders involved, the rapid-fire timing of the applications, her eyes darted away for just a fraction of a second. A flicker of something else, fear, calculation, crossed her face before the mask of shared outrage snapped firmly back into place. "The thing is, Jess," I said slowly, forcing myself to watch her intently, fighting the urge to believe the performance. "To get these online loans, they have verification steps, security questions, things only someone very close would know. Your mother's maiden name, your first elementary school, your favorite pet's name. You know the drill. And the applications used our home address, my correct date of birth, my correct social security number. Not information a random hacker easily gets all at once." She started to bluster, waving a dismissive hand. "Well, who knows how they get that stuff, Mike? Maybe from that old box of papers I finally threw out. Or they hacked your email ages ago and just waited. These criminals are incredibly clever. Everyone says so." Her explanations felt thin, rehearsed. "Maybe," I conceded, though the lead weight of doubt in my stomach was growing heavier, colder. "But this feels personal, too accurate. I'm going to call one of these lenders right now, their fraud department. See what information they have on the application file. Maybe an IP address, anything." I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over the contact list where I'd saved the number for Upstart's fraud line. The bluff, if it was one, needed to be called. As I started to dial, Jessica's carefully constructed composure finally shattered. "Mike, wait! Don't!" Her voice was suddenly thin, laced with undeniable panic. All the color drained from her face. I stopped dialing, lowered the phone slowly, and just looked at her. The performance was over. The mask had slipped, revealing raw, undisguised fear underneath. "What is it, Jessica?" My voice was quiet, but the question hung in the air like a death sentence. Tears welled instantly, spilling down her cheeks. Okay, look, I messed up. Just a little bit. I made a mistake." My heart sank, a physical plummeting sensation. "What did you do?" I needed some money, she stammered, twisting the strap of her purse, avoiding my eyes. "Just a small loan, like 5,000. Things have been tight, you know. The boutique cut my hours. I needed to cover some credit card bills I didn't want to bother you with. I was going to pay it back right away, Mike, honestly, before the first statement even came. I didn't want you to worry or be angry. I used your info for just one small application, thinking it would be easier to get approved quickly with your good credit." Even that minimized, self-serving confession was a brutal knife twisting in my gut. She'd used my identity, violated my trust, leveraged my hard-earned creditworthiness for any amount behind my back. But the numbers didn't lie. The credit report screamed $55, not $5. "One small loan?" My voice was dangerously quiet, deadly calm. "Jess, look at this report again. Upstart, $25,000. Avant, $18,000. Best Egg, $12,000. That adds up to $55,000, not $5. What the hell's really going on here? Tell me the truth. Now!" The dam didn't just break, it exploded. Sobs racked her body, harsh and ugly. She collapsed onto the entryway bench, burying her face in her hands as if she could hide from the words spilling out. The full confession tumbled out between gasps, disjointed, choked by tears and shame, each admission hitting me like a physical blow, harder than the last. Yes, she'd applied for all of them, every single one, methodically, obsessively, over a frantic 2-week period, sitting right here in our house, likely at the computer in the kitchen nook. Using my name, my social security number, my entire digital and personal identity, harvested from 20 years of shared life, shared accounts, shared trust. She'd clicked through online agreements in my name, likely forged electronic signatures without a second thought, answered security questions only she could possibly know with intimate certainty. The reason, the why that ripped out the last vestiges of my disbelief? Him. Julian Vance. Julian Vance. The name landed like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. The charming, slightly too smooth guy she'd met at some overpriced wine tasting event a few months back. Younger, maybe 40, with that vaguely European accent, which I now suspected was as fake as his intentions, and expensive-looking clothes that never quite seemed earned. He was supposedly in international art dealing, or rare gem importing, something glamorous and nebulous. Jessica had been unusually effusive about him, talking about how cultured he was, how he really listened, how he understood her soul, in a way I apparently didn't. I'd privately dismissed him as a harmless Eurotrash wannabe, maybe a bit of a con artist preying on bored suburban women. Annoying, yes. Threatening? I hadn't seen it. The depth of my own blindness, my own complacent dismissal, felt like another layer of humiliation. Through her choked sobs, Jessica confessed the whole sordid story. She'd fallen head over heels for Julian's practiced charm, his extravagant promises, his sob stories about needing immediate capital for a once-in-a-lifetime deal, setting up a gallery in Thailand. He'd painted a picture of a dazzling future together, far from boring Cedar Park. But naturally, he couldn't access his own vast, and likely imaginary funds, due to temporary international banking snafus or frozen assets. He needed cash, fast, untraceable if possible. And Jessica, blinded by what she thought was love, or maybe just desperate for an escape hatch from a life she'd apparently grown tired of, became his willing financial instrument. She'd used my pristine credit, my carefully guarded identity, my financial stability that I had painstakingly built, as the crowbar to pry open vaults of easy online credit for him. She admitted the frantic application spree, hitting lender after lender before the inquiries caught up and triggered alerts. She described how the funds were deposited into that joint household account she managed, the one I rarely checked closely, trusting her with the grocery money and utility bills, and how she immediately wired the money out, transfer by transfer, into an account Julian controlled. Every dollar siphoned off almost the moment it arrived. Then came the final devastating blow. The coup de grace delivered between racking sobs that now sounded utterly self-pitying rather than remorseful. "He's gone, Mike. He's gone." "Gone? What do you mean, gone? Gone where?" A cold dread, colder than anything yet, seized me. He flew out last week," she choked out, finally looking up, her face streaked with tears and mascara, but her eyes holding a flicker of something calculating even then. "To Thailand. He had to go finalize the deal, get the gallery set up for us. He took the money to get started. He promised he'd send for me as soon as he was settled, as soon as the first big sale went through. Thailand. $55,000 of fraudulent debt irrevocably attached to my name, plus whatever else she'd pilfered. And the charming Julian Vance, the soulmate, was likely already enjoying cocktails on a beach in Phuket, bankrolled by Michael Sullivan's stolen identity and shattered future. The sheer, stupid predictability of his vanishing act somehow made Jessica's betrayal even more galling. The air left my lungs in a silent whoosh. I felt dizzy, profoundly nauseous. The betrayal wasn't just double, it felt exponential. My wife, my partner of 20 years, hadn't just cheated on me emotionally and likely physically. She had actively, consciously conspired to commit serious financial crimes against me, using my trust as her weapon, planning to drain our resources and abandon me for a transparent con man who had inevitably conned her in the end. The wreckage was total. I looked at the weeping woman crumpled on the entryway bench. She was utterly alien to me now, a stranger inhabiting the familiar shell of my wife, a criminal who had slept in my bed, shared my meals, used my trust to systematically destroy my financial life. My voice, when I finally found it, was devoid of any heat, any emotion at all, just cold, dead calm, the calm of utter finality. "Get your things, pack one bag, whatever you can carry. I want you out of this house. Now. Mike, please, listen. I can explain. I didn't mean—" The pleading felt rehearsed, hollow. "There's nothing left to say, Jessica," I interrupted, the words flat, detached. "There's nothing to explain. You made thousands of choices. Every click, every application, every lie. This is the result. Now live with it. Somewhere else. Get out." I turned my back on her, unable to look at her face any longer. I walked stiffly, mechanically into my home office, the one room that still felt vaguely mine, a space dedicated to logic and order, and shut the door, the click of the latch echoing in the sudden deafening silence. I left her alone with the ruins of the life she had meticulously and apparently gleefully dismantled. The secure system I thought I'd built, the life I thought was stable, had suffered a catastrophic core meltdown initiated from the inside out. And the cleanup, the fallout, it was going to be a long, ugly, radioactive hell. The silence in the house after she finally left, after a flurry of frantic packing, more weeping, which now sounded entirely hollow to my ears, and a final ignored plea through the closed office door, was profound. It wasn't peaceful. It was the dead, echoing quiet of a vacuum, the sound of a life suddenly, violently emptied. I stayed locked in my office for hours, the printed credit report spread out on my desk like autopsy photos. The logical, methodical part of my brain, the part that manages complex IT projects, was screaming for action, damage assessment, containment, recovery plan. But the human part, the husband part, was reeling, winded, struggling to process the sheer magnitude of the betrayal. This wasn't just infidelity. This wasn't just financial irresponsibility. This was a calculated demolition. Jessica hadn't just cheated on me. She had cheated me, deliberately using my identity, my stability, the very foundations of the life I'd meticulously built, as disposable resources to chase a fantasy with a grifter. The level of premeditation required, gathering my information, navigating loan applications, handling the money transfers, maintaining a facade of normalcy all the while, was staggering. How many times had she sat across the dinner table from me, smiling, asking about my day, while actively plotting to defraud me? The thought made me physically ill. Sometime after midnight, fueled by stale coffee and a cold knot of fury in my stomach, the project manager took over. Step 1. Full scope assessment. The $55,000 in fraudulent loans was the bleeding wound, but I needed to know if the infection had spread. I logged into every financial account I could think of, my fingers flying across the keyboard with grim efficiency. The joint checking account Jessica managed confirmed the rapid disbursement of loan funds. Large deposits in, large wire transfers out, often the same day. Destination account numbers I didn't recognize. Then, the gut punches I discovered earlier solidified. The $15,000 drained from our shared emergency savings account 3 weeks prior, and the horrifying $20,000 hardship withdrawal from my 401k a month before that, citing major home repairs, a complete fabrication. The signature on the electronic form wasn't mine, though it was a decent forgery. She must have guessed my password or found it written down somewhere I'd long forgotten. A stupid lapse in my own security protocols, assuming the threat was external, never internal. Total damage quantifiable so far, $55,000 in fraudulent loans, plus $15,000 from savings, plus $20,000 for my retirement, $90,000. $90,000. Vanished. Likely sitting in Julian Vance's offshore account or already spent on beaches and bars in Thailand. $90,000 plus the catastrophic damage to my credit score and the terrifying uncertainty of my financial future. Step 2. Trace the perpetrator's digital footprint. I knew I needed expert help. My first call the next morning, even before coffee, was to Dave Rodriguez, the sharpest cybersecurity guy on my team. I met him at a coffee shop near work, wanting neutral ground. I laid out the bare bones: suspected spousal identity theft, fraudulent loans, potential international money laundering. I kept the raw emotion tamped down, presenting it like a critical incident report. Dave listened intently, his initial sympathy quickly shifting to professional focus. Damn, Mike, that's brutal. Insider threat, the absolute worst. Okay, let's see what she left behind. Did she use the home computer mostly? Yeah, the desktop in the kitchen nook, I confirmed. That evening, Dave came over, armed with his laptop and a toolkit of forensic software. The atmosphere in the house was thick with betrayal, but having Dave there, focused and methodical, felt like bringing in the cavalry. He booted up the offending desktop. Jessica, predictably, had cleared the browser history, deleted obvious files. But she wasn't a tech expert. She hadn't wiped the free space, hadn't scrubbed the registry. Dave went to work. Using recovery tools, he started pulling ghosts from the machine. Fragments of deleted search queries appeared like damning apparitions. Easy personal loans, high approval rate. Best online loans, no collateral. How to wire money to Thailand cheap. Bangkok expat bars. Non-extradition countries. Visits to Kayak and Expedia, searching one-way flights from Dallas DFW to Bangkok BKK, coinciding with the dates the loan money started flowing. He even found cached remnants of Julian Vance's now-deleted Instagram feed, slick photos of him posing on yachts, in infinity pools, surrounded by younger women, all posted months before he supposedly needed Jessica's desperate financial intervention for his big deal. He wasn't just a con man. He was a brazen one, flaunting his lifestyle online. The real payload, however, came from recovering fragments of deleted emails from an unallocated cluster on the hard drive. Not her primary email, a burner account likely created specifically for communicating with Julian. Dave painstakingly pieced together threads. They were sickening. Julian's messages were a masterclass in manipulation. Flowery declarations of love, urgent whispers about their shared future, pressure tactics about the deal falling through without immediate cash. Jessica's replies were even more revealing. Naive, yes, but also disturbingly proactive. One recovered snippet from her read. Jules, my darling, don't worry about the funds. I accessed Mike's details today. SSN, DOB, everything. Applied for the first $25K, should be approved soon. He suspects nothing. Anything for our future together. Soon we'll be free. Another? Sent the $18,000 from Avant today. Western Union to Bangkok confirmed. Almost there, my love. Just need one more. Thinking best egg next. Keep the champagne chilled. Reading those words, her casual betrayal typed out in black and white, felt like taking another round of blows. She wasn't merely duped. She was a willing, active participant. She saw my identity, my financial stability, not as something built together over 20 years, but as a resource to be plundered for her escape plan. Any lingering shred of sympathy I might have felt for her being manipulated evaporated in the face of that cold, calculated complicity. Dave, seeing my face, just shook his head. "Gotcha, you bastard," he muttered, saving the recovered files securely. "This is Exhibit A, Mike. Step 3. Formalize the defense." Monday morning, suit on, spine straight, I walked into the downtown Austin Police Department headquarters. Filing a police report against your wife for identity theft and grand larceny feels like something out of a bad movie. The officer taking the report was young, trying to maintain professionalism, but his eyes widened as I laid out the details. The amount, the international element, the fact that the perpetrator was my spouse of 2 decades. It was humiliating, laying bare the intimate failure of my marriage under the flat fluorescent lights of a police station. But it was absolutely necessary. That official APD report number became my shield and sword. That same day, I sat down at my computer and navigated the labyrinthine FTC identitytheft.gov website. I filled out the lengthy affidavit, uploading the police report, meticulously listing every fraudulent account, every unauthorized inquiry, every stolen dollar from savings and retirement. Clicking Submit felt like officially declaring war. Then, the calls to the credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, placing extended fraud alerts, initiating credit freezes. It felt like slamming stable doors after the horses, worth $90,000, had already bolted, but it was crucial to prevent further damage. Step 4. Hire the right general. My research led me unequivocally to Abigail Sharma. Her downtown law office radiated quiet competence. She wasn't flashy, but her eyes were sharp, missing nothing as I recounted the entire nightmare, bolstered now by Dave's recovered emails and the official reports. I spread the evidence out on her conference table, a mosaic of financial ruin and digital betrayal. Abigail listened without interruption, her pen occasionally scratching notes on a legal pad. When I finally fell silent, exhausted, she nodded slowly. "Mike, this is egregious. The financial devastation is staggering, but the calculated nature of Mrs. Sullivan's actions, particularly the identity theft to fund an adulterous escape, gives us very strong grounds in the divorce proceedings. Recovering the money from Vance is a long shot, bordering on impossible without incredible international luck and cooperation. Our primary focus needs to be threefold. First, aggressively cleaning your credit and absolving you of this fraudulent debt. Second, ensuring Jessica bears the full financial and legal consequences in the divorce settlement. Third, pursuing criminal charges to the fullest extent possible. Her clear, methodical plan resonated with my project manager brain. It was daunting, yes, but it was a plan. Steps, actions, deliverables. The fight with the creditors will be the most frustrating part, she warned. They don't like writing off debt, even fraudulent debt. It requires persistence, documentation, and sometimes legal threats under the FCRA. Be prepared for a long haul. Leaving Abigail's office that afternoon, I felt a strange mix of dread and determination. The betrayal still felt like a physical weight, a sickness in my gut. But now I had a strategy. I had allies. The initial shock was hardening into resolve. Jessica and Julian thought they could just steal my life and disappear. They underestimated the meticulous, persistent, and now thoroughly enraged IT project manager they left holding the bag. The recovery project was officially launched. The ensuing months were a blur of spreadsheets, phone calls, certified letters, and soul-crushing bureaucracy. Abigail Sharma's team was phenomenal, handling the direct legal communications. But the sheer volume of follow-up required from my end was staggering. Each fraudulent loan, each bogus inquiry required its own separate battle. Imagine spending your lunch break on hold with a credit card company's fraud department, listening to mind-numbing hold music, only to finally reach an agent who asks you to recount the entire saga for the 5th time, despite you having already sent them the police report, the FTC affidavit, and a sworn statement. Imagine receiving official-looking letters from collection agencies demanding payment for debts you never incurred, threatening legal action against you, the victim. Imagine the sick feeling of opening your mail, wondering which creditor would be demanding their pound of flesh today. Mr. Sullivan, regarding dispute case, Measure 1X47B, a call center agent might drone, we show the loan application was verified using security questions linked to your profile. Yes, I'd reply, trying to keep the exhaustion and fury out of my voice. Security questions answered correctly by my wife, who stole my identity, as detailed in the police report number R23-. Sir, our records indicate a successful verification. While we note your dispute, the loan remains your responsibility pending further investigation. Click. It was like punching concrete. Some days I felt like giving up, like letting the $55,000 anchor drag me under just to make the harassment stop. But Abigail and Dave kept me focused. Document everything, Mike, Abigail instructed. Every call, every letter, every agent's name. We build a case against their non-compliance if necessary. Dave helped me set up secure cloud storage for all the documentation, a digital fortress against the paper blizzard. Slowly, agonizingly, persistence began to pay off. A letter from Best Egg confirming the $12,000 loan was indeed fraudulent and removed. A notification from TransUnion showing the Avon account corrected to disputed by consumer, identity theft. Each small victory felt disproportionately huge, a tiny crack of light in the oppressive financial darkness. It took nearly 6 months, countless hours, and significant legal fees. But eventually the major fraudulent loans were acknowledged as such by the lenders and removed from my active debt load. My credit score began a slow, tentative crawl upwards from the depths. The divorce proceedings moved on a parallel track, equally fraught but with a clearer upper hand for us. Jessica's lawyer tried valiantly to spin her as a naive woman manipulated by a Svengali, suggesting the stolen funds were a marital mistake to be shared. Abigail shredded that argument in mediation sessions, presenting the recovered emails showcasing Jessica's active complicity, the clear evidence of funds wired directly for Julian's benefit, and the timing coinciding with his flight. The threat of criminal prosecution was our ace in the hole. The Austin PD detective had gathered enough evidence to present the case to the district attorney. While white-collar crime prosecution can be slow and uncertain, The possibility of facing felony charges for identity theft and wire fraud clearly terrified Jessica. It became the ultimate leverage in forcing a settlement. Faced with irrefutable evidence, zero chance of alimony, and the looming possibility of indictment, Jessica finally capitulated. The settlement agreement, drafted by Abigail, was brutal but just. The final divorce decree, stamped by a judge, felt like the closing of a very dark, very expensive chapter. Divorce. Granted final, absolute, a clean severing. Fraudulent debt, legally declared Jessica's sole responsibility. While practically uncollectible from her, it officially cleared my name. Asset division. The house equity was appraised. From Jessica's theoretical half, the entire $35,000 she stole from savings, and my 401k was deducted first. What little remained after that was further reduced by her share of legal fees. I kept the house, refinancing the mortgage solely in my name. She walked away with virtually nothing tangible. No alimony, waiver confirmed. Criminal case. The DA's office, perhaps satisfied with her financial ruin and the divorce outcome, ultimately offered Jessica a deferred adjudication deal on lesser charges. Years of probation, court-ordered counseling, and a largely symbolic restitution order payable to me, which I never expect to see a dime of. No jail time, but a permanent mark on her record. And Julian? He remained a ghost, a caricature, enjoying stolen sunshine in Thailand. Internet searches occasionally turned up recent photos on obscure travel forums, him looking tanned and smug, often with a new, younger woman on his arm. There was no international recourse, no way to claw back the money. Accepting that piece of injustice was bitter, a reminder that the world isn't always fair, that some villains get away. But knowing Jessica didn't, knowing she faced consequences, provided a necessary, if incomplete, sense of closure. Life now, a year post-divorce, is stable, rebuilt. I kept the house. Selling it felt like letting them win again. It's quieter now, filled with my things, my routines. I'm more frugal, more cautious. I monitor my credit like a hawk, use two-factor authentication on everything, shred documents neurotically. The emotional scars run deep. Trusting anyone, especially in a relationship, feels like a mountain I haven't yet begun to climb. The betrayal rewired my assumptions about people, about security. But I survived. I didn't collapse. The project manager faced the crisis, assessed the risks, deployed countermeasures, managed the recovery. It was the hardest project of my life, with stakes far higher than any ID system migration. I reclaimed my name, my financial standing, my home. The cost was immense, emotionally, financially, temporally.